how's it going? Iissham here, and as promised, here is my updated Resto Shaman guide for patch 7.3.5. So I'm hoping that this guide, will kind of be enough to help you last minute Resto Shamans get that little bit of edge that you need to maybe push to a desired rating that you want. So I think we're going to start with talents to begin with. This will be pretty quick. Not too much has changed since I did this in 7.1, I believe it was, for the talent choices. Honor talents are a different story, but we'll get to those shortly. So the level 15, the first tier of choices we have Undulation, Unleash Life, and Torrent. Now, unfortunately, Unleash Life is going to be the talent that you just never pick. Torrent and Undulation is going to be better in every situation. Even though they buffed Unleash Life quite a bit, it's still nowhere near as good as these two, and I'll get into it a little bit more. Now, for the most part, you want to pick Undulation if you're playing just kind of like your standard Resto Shaman PvP, and what I mean by that is, you're not really pushing in, you're just kind of playing back, you're just trying to heal your teammates as best you can and as efficiently as possible. That's when you're going to be wanting to use Undulation. So basically for every matchup, every comp, Undulation is good and it can work. Now, however, for Torrent is going to be used when you are playing a little more aggressively, so you maybe don't get that opportunity to cast as much, and you'll want to use Torrent specifically when you use a talent such as Ancestral Guidance and others, which we will get into later. So Undulation, you can pick Undulation for every single game and it will be fine. You will do well because it's very good. And Torrent, if you're a little more experienced at Resto Shaman and you kind of want to play like a little more niche comp where you can be really aggressive, Torrent can work. The only thing with Torrent is that I feel like it isn't as effective against teams like MS, like Arms Warrior and stuff like that, so even if you're being really offensive, Undulation might be better. But again, it relies kind of on your playstyle and what comp you're playing for these two. So for your second choice of talents here, you have Gust of Wind, Graceful Spirit, and Wind Rush Totem. Again, you should pick Gust of Wind basically every single time. Graceful Spirit is still super bad, reduces cooldown of Spirit Walker's Grace by 60 seconds and increases movement speed by 20% while it's active, and increases your movement speed in Ghost Wolf by an additional 10%. It's not bad, but however, the whole Spirit Walker's Grace thing isn't going to be that great if someone on the other team can Purge, and like lots of classes have that. And then the 10% speed in Ghost Wolf is okay, like it's actually not bad, but you do need to cast as a shaman. Like you can't just sit Ghost Wolf and like expect to live. It's never gonna work out basically. And Wind Rush Totem is just bad. It's a 2-minute cooldown for 60% increased movement speed for 5 seconds, and you have to be kind of like, you can outrange it pretty quick, and like it's 2-minute cooldown, so it's not very good. Or you have Gust of Wind, which is a 15-second cooldown, and it like hurls you forward like a decent bit, and you get a huge advantage if you know how to use it properly on maps like sewers. You can use it on Ruins of Lordaeron, Blade's Edge. Like it has all these uses for it, and it just like helps give you a little bit of advantage. So for the second row of talents, I would pick Gust of Wind always. Like you can experiment with like Graceful Spirit if you want, but again, Wind Rush Totem is bad, don't ever pick it. So your choices could be between those two, but again, if you pick Gust of Wind for every single game, you're not going to lose games because of it. And then we have Lightning Surge Totem, Earth Grab Totem, and Voodoo Totem. Again, it depends on what comp you're playing. Cap, play Cap if you don't have lots of stuns on your team. Like for example, I play a lot with the Red Pally, and we only usually have Hodge for a stun, so using Cap can be really good just to get that little extra disruption. If you are playing a comp with lots of stuns, you might want to try Earth Grab Totem. you know, for that root. If you're playing with like a rogue or something, R-less is a good one. The whole team is probably going to be on DR anyways, and you don't want to like mess up a kill opportunity. So playing roots can be really useful. Again, playing roots for like melee cleaves and things like that would be good, considering you get Earth Grab Totem and you still get Earth Bind. So you can be pretty hard to hit if you use Earth Grab. And then Voodoo Totem I only use if I'm playing against Destro Warlocks, because it's just that really good extra stop. For example, if they use, you know, if a Destro Warlock uses Wall and he's getting that bolt, you can prevent that damage, which is really good. It pairs nicely with grounding against Destro Warlocks as well, because then you have 3 stops for them, which is like pretty huge. I also use Voodoo Totem if I was playing a comp like Ret DK or Ret Warrior, and we just like run out of healer some game, because you can use it for that extra interrupt. So yeah, again, so this row just depends on what comp you're playing. For the next tier, we have Crashing Waves, Ancestral Guidance, and Deluge. Crashing Waves, you can pick this every single map, and it won't affect you at all. You're not going to lose games from it, so it's really good, solid choice. You could pick this every single game and it will be fine. Ancestral Guidance actually isn't that bad. I was like talking to Absurge a lot about this, because I know he's been playing with it quite a bit, and I haven't really experimented with it, but it's actually like really good if you use it for you're being like really offensive. You can pair this with Torrent, and if you go to your honor talent, Electrocute too, so you're doing more damage. Basically you want to use this talent if you're more of an experienced shaman and you want to have like a really quick game and you just kind of want to all in the other team, because it can do a lot of healing. So like if you pair this with Ascendance and Healing Tide and you just push you know, your Riptide and spam Purge, you're not going to die. Like, it does so much healing in situations like that. So it's really nice, especially if the other team doesn't have MS. So I like to use it against like Frostmage sub RMP, for example. When I play PHS and after like a blind or something they don't have any more CC for me, I'll just trinket and use this, and I'll literally top my team because they don't have MS, and it's super strong against specific matchups. So again, use this if you're more experienced, you know how to combo it well with like Torrent and Spam Purge and things like that. But you can pick Crashing Waves. That is the safest option for you. Yeah, and like I said, you're not going to lose any games for using Crashing Waves. So then we have the next tier. We have Ancestral Protection Totem, Earthen Shield Totem, and Ancestral Vigor. I don't really think there's a place for it in PvP. I mean, it only increases your health by 10%, and that's if you're using like specific healing spells on it. So I don't think it is that good. Then you have Earthen Shield Totem, which is nowhere near as good as it was in when I did my first guide. Like, Earthen Shield Totem, back in the day, you would just like place it down and there's no way you would die, like, because it just took so much off, like dots and like little hits on you. It was just like impossible to kill you. Now Earthen Shield Totem is still very good, but it scaled horribly throughout the expansion. So it only does like 14k more absorb per spell, which is like nothing, honestly. But it's still good. It's very good against, Shadow Priest, UA Warlocks, Feral Druids, Assassination Rogues, but it's still nowhere near as powerful as it was. Then Ancestral Protection Totem, kind of a funny one. Res Totem. A lot of people used to troll around with it back in the day, but it actually can be okay in like certain situations. So let's say you're playing like a Destro, I don't even know what would be good. Some form of, like, let's say Destro Frostmage. You're playing against that, so no dots, or dots aren't going to kill you or anything like that. Taking 34k off a 1.8 mil Chaos Bolt isn't really going to change the game. But however, if you just kind of want to, you could spec Ancestral Totem. They're going to go you or one of your teammates. It's just that one thing, like, you could be like, oh yeah, don't use like any abilities, we'll just do this and kind of see if we can get like a gimmicky win. So it definitely has its place. Again, you can use Earthen Shield Totem. You're not going to lose any games for picking it. And then I would just avoid Ancestral Vigor, because yeah, just like I said, has no place in PvP. And then we go to this row. we have Echo of the Elements, Cloudburst, and Bottomless Depths. Now, Bottomless Depths is good if you are playing like a super dampening comp and you know the game's going to go to dampening. You're going to lose overall a decent bit of healing output, but if you're fighting something like double tanks like prot arms, and you know they're not going to train you and the game's going to go super long, this actually isn't a bad choice, because you will find that it's like super hard to Like, I've played games where I've used this talent and I've gained like 2 million mana back just from my resurgence, which is an insane amount. So yeah, if you feel like you're struggling on mana a lot and your overall healing is good, then maybe you want to experiment with Bottomless Depths. Like, it can be good. It just sucks losing the 2 charges of Riptide and Healing Stream from Echo. So yeah, you want to use this if the game's going to go to dampening and you can heal against a comp just fine. Cloudburst, 30-second cooldown for nothing really. I mean, I don't know, it's okay. You can stack it up a decent bit, but it's nowhere near as good as it was in WoD. So for the most part, I would just ignore this. Then Echo of the Elements, super strong, gives you an extra charge of Riptide, Healing Stream, and Lava Burst. And yeah, so it's just like super good. And then in addition, when you consume a charge of Tidal Waves, you have a 10% chance to generate a charge of Riptide. So overall, going to increase your healing quite a bit. If you're getting trained, you know, you can just mash Riptide, and because you have 2 charges, you don't have to wait for it. It also makes your healing rotation a lot smoother. Like, you can hit Riptide, toss in 2 healing waves for your with crashing waves, because you have an extra stack of Tidal Waves. And then you can hit Riptide again and just do it again, and then you always have a Riptide to keep your Tidal Waves up, which is super good. So again, these two, it just depends on your matchup. You do whatever you want. If you think you can heal through a comp but you a lot, pick Bottomless Depths. If you need a little bit more healing and the games are going to go quick, use Echo of the Elements. Now for the last tier, we have Ascendance, Wellspring, and High Tide. High Tide PV healing, chain heal bounces to 1 additional target, and its fall off with each bounce is reduced by half. Yep, you want to put an X through that. You're never going to use chain heal in arena. Even when there was that 1 spec with the chain heal build, even that was like only good for like a month, and then they just shit on it, and it's like not good anymore. Wellspring, nope. Ascendance basically duplicates your healing for 15 seconds, and like it distributes it all throughout your teammates, so it's super strong if you're close with like if you're within the range. They nerfed the range of Ascendance a little bit, so you can't just be back 40 yards and your healing will duplicate, which kind of sucks. But again, Ascendance and Ancestral Guidance, super strong, because again, it just like can top your whole team. So yeah, for this last tier, it's pretty easy. Just pick Ascendance and you will do fine. Now we're going to move on to Honor Talents. And again, it depends what you are playing for this first tier. So you got, you know, your Trinkets, your normal Trinket, Adapt, and Relentless. Now, since my earlier guide, they did nerf Adapt and Relent. I think Relent used to be, what is it, 20% now? It used to be 25, so, you know, not a huge difference. But yeah, just a little change like that. You're going to want to use Trinket if you're playing a comp that you kind of need that oh shit Trinket link button. You know, play Trinket for that. If you're some matchups, Adapt is actually okay. However, if you have like you're stuck in a little CC chain that isn't longer than 5 seconds, you can't just push Adapt if you use it like you used to be able to, which made it like super OP. Obviously, don't pick Adapt against rogues because they can just sap you, and then, you know, they can just get Adapt off, so it's pretty annoying. And then Relentless. Use Relentless if you usually don't need to go be like, holy fuck, Link. But if you are going to sit like a stupid amount of CC, just a really unreasonable long amount of CC, and the game's going to go super long, you know, Relentless is okay, because again, in the long run, you will sit a lot less CC because of it. Then the next tier, you have Defender of the Week, Vim and Vigor, and Calming Waters. All have specific matchups that they're not bad in. Defender of the Week, if you're fighting a team that, you know, can go you a lot, you know, they just have a lot of pressure and you really want that extra 20% haste from it, which you can basically keep up. Like, it doesn't have an internal cooldown or anything like that, so you can keep it up for a long time. So yeah, I would use this if you think the team will go you like a decent amount and you're going to worry about keeping Vim and Vigor up. Vim and Vigor, super good. Obviously, while you're at 80%, your healing is increased by 20%. Super strong if you know the opposing team won't go you. Now, once you start getting to higher rating, you see that teams will take advantage of this and they'll hit you just to force Vim off. So, you know, you have to put a couple heals in yourself to get that back up again, and then, you know, your team's health starts to, you know, diminish a little bit, because you have to focus on keeping Vim up to get the full benefit of it. But yeah, if you're fighting against people that, you know, they aren't going to touch you at all, they're just going to completely ignore you, pick Vim and Vigor, because a 20% increased healing is insane. And then Calming Waters, you know, if you're playing against a team, like I know I've used this against Windwalker DK when I know the Holy Pally is using Mailing Wing, so he runs in and then my team just plays Cleave. So I will literally just stand in one spot the whole entire game and just like eat kicks and just spam cast until we eventually get the kill. If you find you're having trouble juking and you're getting locked on cooldown and it's causing you to lose the game, I would try Calming Waters, because again, reducing that kick by 70% is super huge, and also reduces like silence too, which is really good. And then the next row, they nerfed Windfury a lot, so I know back in the day you'd use Windfury if you're playing with like a warrior because it comboed really well together. Unfortunately, Windfury for Resto Shaman is just not good anymore, so I would just ignore this one. You're never going to use it. Another one that they nerfed quite heavily since I last did my guide was Counter-Strike Totem. They gave it like a damage cap now, so you can't just like instantly kill someone. Like, I've known before, I've Counter-Strike like Chaos Bolts back in the day, and I've literally like soloed like players before from Counter-Strike. It was a little ridiculous back in the day. It's still good. It still has those little niche things that you can do it in. I like using it against like DK, Demon Lock, for example, because they'll like grip me in, Fell Lord, all that stuff. You drop it, it can do a pretty significant amount of damage quickly, and that's the thing. You want it to do its full damage quickly before they kill it, because it does only have 5 health. So literally any like offensive ability that does damage in the game will kill it. So yeah, if you want a little extra damage, you want to have some fun, play Counter-Strike. It's not horrible, but again, it's not the best. And then Sky Fury used to be a lot better back in the day as well. Blizzard just hates Shaman's Kappa. And yeah, so Sky Fury is really good. Again, you can use Sky Fury, you know, every single game, and it won't lose you a game because of it. It just increases the critical effect of, you know, your healing and damage, I believe it is. Why does not say it here? Yeah, right there. Okay, I'm dumb. By 20%, I think it used to be 30 back in the day. So again, it's okay. It just again increases your healing output. You just drop that, and it combos nicely with you know, your tidal waves proc, because you know you get that increases like your critical strike chance with healing surge by like 50-something%, I believe, and you drop Sky Fury on top of that, and if you get a nice healing surge on yourself, it can like top you, which is really good. So the next tier of talents we have Purifying Waters, Tidebringer, and Swelling Waves. Again, you're never going to use this one. This is a chain heal spec. It's just awful. Just put an X through this one. You're never going to use it. Yeah, Purifying Waters, they ended up nerfing this one too, which I have no idea why. It wasn't like it was game breaking or whatever. And it's affected by MS too, so like, I don't know, the 3% of your total health heals for like 90k a Purge, which is just like awful. So I don't know, it might be okay if you use this with Ancestral Guidance. I haven't experimented with it because I just don't think it would be enough. So again, I would put an X through this one, I'd put an X through this one, and then use Swelling Waves. When you cast Healing Surge on yourself, you're healed for 50% of the amount 3 seconds later. So again, super good. If you're getting trained, you just smash those healing surges on yourself, and it does do a lot of healing. So, and it's a little bit better back in the day, because before they had healing wave or swelling waves and calming waters on the same tier. And like back in the day, calming waters I feel like was a little bit better than it was now, just because of how the meta was. So yeah, I would just stick with swelling waves. Super good, even though they nerfed it. It used to be 100% of the heal, now it's 50%. Still super good if you're getting trained, or even if like you're playing Vim and Vigor and like someone hits you once, you can just put like a healing surge on yourself, and then it should be enough to bring you to that 80% threshold, depending on how low you actually got. And then this next one here depends on what comp you're playing. Voodoo Mastery, I used to play a lot with this back in the day. Basically you get like a 10-second hex, which can be super good. If you're playing a comp that doesn't have that much CC, or like a poly DR, you could mess around with it, you know, just try to go for those plays. You can basically DR hex someone, which is pretty funny. So yeah, it's not bad, but again, it depends on the comp you're playing, and Electrocute and grounding might just be better for what you want to do. Now Electrocute, I love Electrocute. It like really suits my playstyle, because I love playing those aggressive comps where I can just run in there and spam Purge and like do a lot of damage with it. So yeah, Electrocute is good if you're playing an aggressive comp, you want to do damage, and yeah, just super solid choice. I'd use grounding if you're worried about getting CC'd a lot, and if your team is dying in CC, and if you just need that one extra stop to kind of prevent you from getting CC'd or whatever. Grounding Totem is also super effective in this meta right now against Destro Warlocks. Like I said, Destro Warlocks are fucking stupid right now. You know, they have so many ways to get bolts off, and it seems like if they just get one bolt, your team just loses the game. So yeah, grounding is super good because Destro Warlock could push wall. Obviously you can't kick it, so you just ground it. Destro Warlock could push wall and reflect to like kind of prevent you from using a Voodoo Totem against them, so you could ground that and kind of counter it. So yeah, again, this one row just kind of depends on what you're playing against and what comp you're playing as well. And then you have the final row, which is Rippling Waters and Earthshield and Spearlink. Now I used to play with Rippling Waters just for fun. It could be super good if they didn't nerf the healing of like Torrent and they buffed Riptide a little bit, but again, I wouldn't really use this too much. Like MS would just shit on this. And then we have Earthshield, which is just like super solid, like the best thing. If you keep Earthshield up, it'll literally do like your second or third most healing every game. Like it's so strong, and it reduces the damage someone takes by 10%. So again, Earthshield is just super fucking good. Always use it basically. And then Spearlink, I hate Spearlink. It'll you super quickly, and I just don't think it's ever worth it in this meta. So yeah, I would use Earthshield. Super strong, just stick to that. So now we're going to dive into my macros. I have been asked this question a lot, so here we go. And they're like kind of all over the place, so I'll start with these ones here. So I have a lot of cursor macros, so like I'll show you guys. So instead of having the option just to like click somewhere, like you click your thing, then you push your button, then you click where it goes. With these macros, like this Spearlink one right here, I literally just put my cursor somewhere, push it, and then it goes there. So it's just that little thing to help you be like 1 second quicker, which again can make all the difference. And I have that with lots of things. I have it with this one, so I have it with my cap, and then I have these three in here. So if I'm using Earth Grab, Lightning Surge, or whatever cap as you just saw, I just push it, and then again it just instantly goes to my cursor. Now you can use this with I think there's a way that you can show the icon of the spell in between each one. So like I have Voodoo Totem, so if I use Voodoo Totem, it'll show up right there. If I use cap, it'll show up, but since I didn't do the macro right, you can't see my cap right there, but it's okay. Like I played this game long enough that I know like the internal cooldown of my things. But again, these macros I feel like are super beneficial because it just makes you that much quicker. And this macro, I don't actually know what it is. Oh, stop casting using Grounding Totem. a good macro. So like if you're casting something and you see a mage casting sheep, you just push the button and it'll instantly ground for you. So that way you don't have to kind of like move then push it. It's just a little thing that makes it easier for you. And also if you're playing like against something that you're not using grounding, you can just, and like melee are training you, again you can just stand still and like push it to juke them and it's not bad. So a little bit of more uses for that one. And then these ones, I don't know why everything is out of order. But yeah, so this is just my shear 1, 2, 3, which as you can see is right here. And I just have my stop casting in it as well, because let's say I'm casting, and again a mage is casting poly, I can just like push the button and shear them. So I'll just like push the button, shear them. You know, push the button, shear them, and it'll be okay. So I recommend having your stop casting in all those things. And then I have my hex 1, 2, 3. I don't have my stop casting here because yeah, again I could just move around with it. I don't know, it's just like a preference thing. I'd rather have stop casting my shear than hex. I don't know why, but I just do. You could put stop casting your hex probably and be okay. So again, I really recommend having shear 1, 2, 3 and hex 1, 2, 3. It just makes the game easier, and I think it overall helps improve your awareness. Like if you have your gladius right here and you know you see someone, you have to like look over more to hit that shear, as well as looking at your party frames to make sure like everyone's okay. So I think it just helps expand your whole area of view. Next we're going to go into my dispel macros, which you don't need to have, but I do think it's important because again it just makes it super quick. So let's say like my targeting is kind of weird. I use my focus to do more of my targeting while I'm have like one of my party members up here. So let's say I had like, I don't know, one of my party members targeted, and then I have this one guy on focus, and then like one of my other guys got CC'd. I don't want to like, you know, target him and then hit dispel because it's slower. So by having these dispel macros, I can have like everything filled up, and then I can just push one button without having to target that person to get that instant dispel, which is really beneficial. And again, it's just way quicker. So I have that one for party 1, then I have it for party 2, and then what else do I have? I have focus purge. You know, I've seen some shamans with like purge 1, 2, 3, and I just think that's too much. Like I think having a focus purge and a normal purge is good enough. Yeah, again, I just think having purge 1, 2, 3 is just too much. So I've never used it, and yeah, I think you're good with just focus purge. So that's why I have this little guy right here. And then yeah, I have this focus shear. So sometimes, I don't know why, it's just how I've always played. So I do have shear 1, 2, 3, but if I have someone on my focus, I don't know, sometimes I'll just hit like my focus shear instead of shear 1, 2, 3. So again, it just depends. And then I have stop casting, cast wind shear. So this is just like if I target someone, if I'm like leveling or something, I have this shear right here. So same thing, I'm casting something that I can just stop shear. You don't need this one, but again, I like to have it. Oh, yeah, just a troll one. But when I was playing, when I was pushing for Glad one time with Reed, and I lost my voice, so I needed to tell him when to do stuff. You don't need this macro, obviously, just kind of troll. And then a lot of my other macros I have, like you'll see here, I have like 2 of the same for some of my abilities. So I do have a stop casting Tremor Totem, which is right there. Excited that Tremor Totem is finally coming back in BFA. It's going to be sick. The Tremor God will return. And then I have this one, just like show tool tip, Lightning Surge, which is right there, because I don't need to see like the icon for healing wave because it like no cooldown, nothing. Let's see here. Yeah, so like when I did have Tremor Totem, I had this full bar right here with Tremor Totem. Like I had Healing Rain because you used to be able to, like Healing Rain used to be good in WoD and like MOP to use sometimes at the start of a match, but now it just like costs too much mana, and if you're being offensive and have to run in there, you just can't do it. So I had the show tooltip as Tremor Totem, just around dispel macros. This is for my chain heal. Again, chain heal doesn't have a cooldown, and I don't need it to see the chain heal icon, so I have it as healing stream, which is way more important. And then yeah, these are just some other things. So I have my grounding totem, show tooltip grounding totem, stop casting, use grounding totem right there. That was for, what was that for? I think it was so I could just see like grounding totem when I didn't have my PvP talents, or I did in arena. I don't know, it's weird. Anyways, I like that. I think this was supposed to be tremor totem actually back in the day. Maybe. I don't know. It's weird. Anyways, grounding totem, stop casting, again, same reason for what I've discussed earlier. Random dispel macros. Then I have this sentence macro, which has like my blood fury, so my racial in it, and then I have ancestral guidance, so that's not bad to have all those together. And then this is just my cursor, earthen shield, and the rest are you don't really need. So the macros I just went over, you could use a lot. My focus lava burst you don't need, but again, it's just like how I play. Same with my focus flame shock, you don't need it, but again, it's how I play, how I target things. I do have a regular flame shock there, but again, it just depends. In my lightning bolt macro, I do have a cancel aura, blessing, and protection, so like if I would get bopped on blind and I'm playing an RMP, I don't want the mage to steal it, I just hit that and it just takes bop off for me. And that is all the macros that you need for Resto Shaman to be successful in arena. We are going to go into add-ons. Now there's only 3 add-ons that I use. I use Gladius. Let me see if we can get this up. So I use Gladius, I use Omnibar, and I use Recount. The only ones that I would recommend is Gladius and Omnibar. Those would be the 2 ones that you like absolutely need if you really want to help take your PvP level to, you know, the next step. Because it just makes it easier to see things. You know, you can see DRs, so you don't need to track it in your head. You know, you can see cast bars easier. You can configure it to how you want it, basically. So, really beneficial using Gladius, I think. Yeah, so it's basically a must-have add-on. And then I have Omnibar, which basically just keeps track. Let's see. So yeah, it basically just keeps track of whoops, of like enemy player cooldowns is what it does. So like you can do like have kicks on it, other things like bubble, like iron bark, things like that, stuns, enemy cooldown, offensives. So you know you can kind of get a better idea on how to rotate your cooldowns. I also have Recount. I think Recount is pretty interesting. You know, you can look back, see how much healing you did. You know, maybe one game your healing was lower because you didn't keep up Earth Shield as much as you would like, or if you're doing damage, you know, you can see if you could have done more. You could have, you know, if you did a lot of damage, you can be like, oh, how did I do that much damage? How do I replicate that? It also keeps track of interrupts. So if you feel like you had more or needed more interrupts, you could see if that was actually the case. You know, maybe you looked and you did have a lot of interrupts. It also keeps track of deaths. So if you're like, how the heck did my teammate just get 100 0'd in 1 second? Again, there's an option for that you can look and see like how your teammate died so quick. So those are the 3 add-ons that I recommend for you. Next here, this is just going to be like a super quick thing, which is cooldown usage. I know a lot of people have been asking me questions on this. How do I rotate cooldowns, Noah? How do I, you know, what's the the most optimal way to like do X, Y, and Z, right? And there isn't really an optimal way, but I'll give you kind of like a broad generalization of when to use things. So when I go into an arena match, and we're being offensive and my team is starting to take damage and I know I can't cast, I'll usually just drop Tide and I'll like rotate in one of my streams, and then I'll just mash Riptide, and I'll throw in an Earthen shield if it's not against like an assassination rogue or something, because usually then you want to save Earthen shield for Vendetta. So yeah, for that I usually just throw Healing Tide out quickly. It's not that strong. Like I think it was WAD maybe, or Mop, probably Mop, when Healing Tide was like super good and you could like literally top your team. However, it's not that good anymore, so it's okay just to like cycle that as a way to alleviate some of the opposing team's pressure and some of the cleave. Ascendance, you want to use Ascendance when you feel like your team is falling behind very quickly and the other team has no way to stop you, because there's nothing worse than pushing Ascendance and then all of a sudden you getting full sheeped, and that's literally your full Ascendance just gone. Your strongest healing output cooldown is just wasted, and you don't want that to happen. So I recommend using Ascendance when you're on DR for everything. Maybe not full DR, maybe half DR, because I'd rather sit like a 2-second thing than like a 6-second thing or 5-second thing, whatever. And make sure the team has no interrupts, because again, if they have interrupts, you know, that hunter kick, you know, that happens is going to be a nuisance, and it is going to be pretty annoying. So however, that's not that bad. It's just like a little thing to like optimize using Healing Surge or using Ascendance, because you don't need the full duration of Ascendance usually to top your team. Usually it's just like 3 or 4 heals to top your whole team, which is like super strong. So yeah, you just want to be careful with how you use Ascendance. Again, if I'm being super offensive and I'm like purging a lot against the team, like sometimes I'll cycle through my healing streams, like sometimes I'll use both of them, even though I don't really recommend that because their benefit doesn't stack. So like it reduces damage by 16%, although I think it's a little bit lower in PvP, not too sure. So it's usually good to just push one and then use the other one like right after that. But sometimes you are going to find situations where like you use both healing streams and like Healing Tide. And again, it just depends on the situation. I can't really give an in-depth guide on how you should use all your cooldowns. And again, like use Wall when you're getting trained by 2 retarded melee DPS. Because it just alleviates some pressure. Use it if you're being offensive and they think that they're going to look at you. Because if they see you have Wall, they're probably not going to be like, oh, let's train this Resto Shaman through Wall. Use, like I said earlier, use Earthen Shield Totem. If like an Assassination Rogue uses Vendetta. Against UA Warlocks, it has dots on everyone. Against Shadow Priest, if a Feral uses Incarn, it's super powerful against them. So yeah, it just depends, and like you want to use your artifact whenever you can, basically, because it is actually pretty good with talents, because it has its double proc, and it does increase your health by a little bit, which is not bad. So yeah, I think it's just like super good to use, and yeah, just use it whenever you can. And again, it doesn't cost any mana, so use that whenever. And then like your Link should probably be your last cooldown you use. I never use Link first. Well, I shouldn't say never. It's just like very, very rarely. Like maybe once in 100 games I'll use Link before I use Ascendance or Healing Tide or something like that. Usually you want to use it when your team has like no cooldowns left, and it's like that oh shit thing that's just going to save them. I was going to talk about key bindings a little bit. Fuck it, maybe I'll just do it now. I wouldn't copy my key bindings. My key bindings are pretty weird, although I would copy the general idea of my key bindings, if that makes sense. So, like for example, for my shear 1, 2, 3, they're basically all the same. So I use a Naga, and so I have my shear 1 as shift 10 on my Naga, and shear 2 as shift 11, and then shear 3 as shift 12. So, but notice there how all the key bindings are like super close together. I wouldn't want like my shear 1 as like G and like my shear 2 as like 7. That just like doesn't make any sense at all. So as a general rule of thumb, if some of those abilities like that, like your 1, 2, 3 macros, I would have those together, because it just makes it easier to learn them, and it makes it easier to like react to them. And another thing I would do, so like if you're going to use an ability that it's like reaction based, so the quicker you hit it, the better. So like an interrupt sometimes, like grounding totem, tremor when it comes back, things like that, I would have those on like a keybind that isn't that doesn't require to. So like my shear 1, 2, 3, it is on 2 key bindings, but I'm so good at it, it's not an issue for me. But for someone who's learning and wants to be quick on his kicks, I would recommend putting those, maybe instead of like I have it shift 10, 11, 12, maybe have those on just 10, 11, and 12, so you don't have to really think about using like 2 hands to actually get the ability. So yeah, I would just like your ones that you want to hit really fast, like maybe disperse, even like have that on something like Q. It's like really close to you, and you can just hit it super quick if you need to, which is good. So just like little things like that. I know it's not like super in depth from my key bindings, but I hope that kind of gives you some tip. Alright, now for this last part of the video, I am going to talk a little bit about the best comps you can play right now in this season that will give you the best chance of, pushing like Glad or Duelist or Challenger Rival, whatever you want. These comps will give you the best chance. So the number 1 comp for a Resto Shaman that you are going to have the easiest time healing is going to be Red Destro. Now why, you may ask? So Red Destro, you're playing with probably the best caster in the game. It's super like self-reliant, like Destro doesn't need that much support to do well. It has a 1-minute cooldown wall, so basically you'll have it for like every setup that the team has. So it's super hard to kill a Destro Warlock. The Destro Warlock, if you're getting trained, the Destro Warlock provides you with a gateway, and it also provides you with a Hellstone that heals for 25% of your health, which is like super good. Like that's just like insane. So if you get locked out or something, you're about to die, you literally pop that, you're fine. You can use Hellstone with Ascendance as well, and it'll literally just like top you, and it'll spread that healing around to your team. So that's really good. And then the other part for that that's really good as well is the Ret Pally, because Ret Pallies, they're good right now. They do a lot of damage, but the key thing for Ret and this comp is that it provides so much support to you as well. So a Ret gives you wisdom, so if you're having problems with ooming, it gives you like 1% mana every like 10 seconds or something like that, which does add up a lot. So if you're having a super long game, you can get so much mana back when you're playing with a Ret Pally. So that's really good. If you're getting trained, a Ret has freedom for you, a Ret has bop for you, which is just like super good. You set way less CC because a Ret can get your fears, your silences, and your stuns. So again, just super good. It's like super hard to kill anything because it's super hard to CC the Resto Shaman. You can't train the Resto Shaman with that comp, or you're gonna get absolutely shit pumped by the Ret and the Destro, who will just tee off. And yeah, it's just like your Destro Warlock is immortal practically, because it has a minute cooldown wall and all the utility that I said earlier. And yeah, so it's just like super good comp, really easy to play. So if you can play that, do it. You'll be just fine. The second comp I have, it's not really a specific comp, it's comps in general. If you are a Resto Shaman and you want to push and you want an easier time, I suggest playing with any variation of Warlock or Shadow Priest, because those two classes bring a lot of support to you as well as, and they're like pretty strong as well. So like you play with a Warlock, like I said, you get Gateway, you get Hellstone, and you just have someone that has like on-demand peels for you. It's just super good. And there's like like Hellstone and Resto Shaman, or Warlock Resto Shaman, they synergize so well. They've synergized so well since like Wrath basically. It's just really good pairing. And Shadow Priest and Resto Shaman is actually a good pairing as well, because you have someone who can maybe potentially get like an MD off to get you out of those CC. They have swap for you as well. They have good healing potential. So yeah, those two classes I would try to play with. Now you can play with both of them together. It's not bad. Shadow Play is a good comp. It does struggle against things like RMP. But yeah, if you can play something like RPS, it's pretty good. You know, the Rogue has a lot of support as well. Like RLS you could play. Just like anything. Like WLS is super good. FPS isn't bad. just like some of those comps, you just want to play with like an OP caster that can provide like a lot of support to you. Shadow Priest is worse than Warlock, but it's similar in how it plays and like the support it can provide you, even though it's objectively like a worse version of a Warlock. The next comps that I recommend you play is like some form of a melee cleave. You know, Resto Shaman TSG is pretty good. You can maybe just like smork your way to a rating that you want. Really hard to kill a warrior, really hard to kill a DK. So yeah, you can just use that to your advantage. They do provide support to you, like a warrior could play disarm, a warrior could play duel, so you can live if things decide to go you. A DK has AMZ for you as well. So, and it's pretty good in the meta right now. Like TSG does very well against all kinds of warlocks. So again, it's not bad. Again, you could play Windwalker, or not again, but you can play Windwalker DK. Resto Shaman, super strong comp. Like, it does well against basically every single matchup, and you don't even have to be that coordinated at low MMR, so I'd give that comp a try. And something like Ret DK, Ret Warrior, if you want like quick games where your 2 DPS will literally just do the most damage, and the Ret can provide you with a lot of support, and it's very hard to out-heal their damage. So yeah, those 3 are just kind of like the main comps that I would have you play. So like, again, to reiterate what I said, Ret Destro, best comp you can play for Resto Shaman by far, I think. After that, you know, you could play any Warlock comp basically and it'd be good. And any like Shadow Priest, well, not any Shadow Priest comp, but there are a couple that are pretty good, and Shadow Priest provide like a lot of support. And I feel like at lower rating, since Shadow Priests do a lot of damage, they can just like completely take over lower MMR, because if your Shadow Priest is good enough, they can probably just carry. And then after that, you have your like melee cleaves. Like so many melee cleaves are gonna be good in this meta right now, so I'd recommend giving those a try. So yeah, that is going to conclude my Resto Shaman guide for patch 7.3.5. If I missed anything, let me know in the comments, and I'll try to touch on it a little bit more. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and if you did, if you're new to the channel, leave a like for the video, because it does help a lot. And as always, again, if you're new, please subscribe to the channel. We just hit 1,000 subs, so I'm really excited for that. And again, thank you for all your support. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video.